everybody. So we are so excited. We're here to talk about the series finale of Star Wars Rebels. And I am joined by my friend Jonathan.
Hello.
Hi. And if you don't know Jonathan, we have done a bunch of Doctor Who podcasts together and a few other little ones here and there. But he's also a big Star Wars Rebels fan.
Yeah, I've been reviewing Star Wars Rebels since season 2, I think, on Rotoscopers, the website that we both write for. And it's been one of my favorite animated series for a long time.
Yeah. What's your sort of fan level as far as Star Wars in general?
I've been a big Star Wars fan ever since like my early teens. It was one of those series, movies, franchises that we weren't allowed to watch when we were kids, but somehow I convinced my mom to let us watch it when I was like, I don't know, 13 or something. And I've been a huge fan ever since. But I would have to say that I think I'm almost more of a fan of the animated series than the movies, even though I love the movies and I really loved The Last Jedi. I know it's very divisive among fans these days, but I think I like the animated series better. Clone Wars is top, but Rebels is right up there, especially after this finale. The finale I thought was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I grew up watching Star Wars, really loved Star Wars, and it was more sort of thing my brother and sister were into, but I kind of like joined in kind of as I sort of piggybacked off of them. And but then I was not a fan of the prequels. I didn't like Phantom Menace came out when I was a freshman at college, and I was very excited. And I remember going to all the re-screenings, the reissuing or whatever of the original trilogy, and those were just some of the most amazing experiences I've had at the theater. Everybody was so excited, and it was the first time I'd ever been to a movie where there was that kind of enthusiasm, where people dressing up and stuff like that. Like I'd never experienced that before. And so I was so excited to see Phantom Menace, and I was very disappointed. And then I hated Attack of the Clones so much. I've grown to like appreciate some things about it, but I hated it back then. And then I never even saw Revenge of the Sith until before Force Awakens. I mean, I was so turned off by Attack of the Clones. I really didn't like it. And so I never watched the Clone Wars because I didn't like the prequels. So I watched, when we were doing all these I was doing a bunch of podcasts on the Star Wars movies and before Force Awakens came out. And so then I watched all the prequels again, and I watched all the stuff. And so I'd heard about this show because I loved Force Awakens so much. And then I'd heard about the show, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll give it a shot. And so I actually had to kind of backpedal, and I just started watching it and then kind of tried to make up and backpedal. I think I started in the middle of season 2. So I had to watch season 1, and I just loved it. I loved Star Wars Rebels so much. I loved the characters. I loved all of the female characters especially were my favorite. And because that hasn't always been the greatest when it comes to Star Wars is the female characters. Of course, there's Leia is amazing, but Padme wasn't my favorite. And, I was just getting to know Rey. But I just loved Rebels so much, mostly for these great characters I thought were just so interesting and new. And I know some of them were from Clone Wars, like Ahsoka, but there were still some new ones, and I just really liked following their journey. And I was mixed on Last Jedi. You guys can check out the podcast that we did on Last Jedi. I think it was really fair. There's some things I really hated, and there were some things that I liked quite a bit. So I was right in the middle of the camps on Jedi. But I just thought this finale was tremendous. It was, I think, better, certainly better than the recent movies, and and just it had that old school feel to me about Star Wars that I definitely didn't feel in The Last Jedi. And I don't know, it was kind of comforting in a way for me. I really liked it. I agree.
I guess I would. I think I might have liked it more than The Last Jedi. I don't know. It might be about equal. I liked them for totally different reasons. I really liked, I guess, how victorious they were. And you
Yeah.
didn't quite get that with The Last Jedi, because The Last Jedi is like right in the middle of this trilogy that where it can't be victorious yet. So I loved how well everything went. Everything went way better than I was expecting. I was expecting massive failures. I was really afraid that Ezra was going to die. I was surprised at how many people survived. I think didn't only Gregor die. He was the only one.
Yeah, I think so. Well,
Um,
and I mean, it kind of feels like part of the finale. We'll talk about with Kanan in the previous episode, but and there's also, I should say, huge spoilers in this podcast for like everything Star Wars. These spoilers for Last Jedi, spoilers for this, and I think that they actually did Rogue One better than Rogue One did Rogue One. I really do. I mean, certainly Saw Gerrera in the series was a way better character, in my opinion. He was way more consistently written. He was way more interesting. You understood what he was looking for, what he was doing. Where I thought he was a very muddled character in Rogue One. And so I think that this series did a prequel to A New Hope much better than Rogue One, in my opinion.
I, I would agree.
Yeah,
I didn't hate Rogue One, but I did not love Rogue One.
yeah.
Really liked a lot of things about Rogue One, but I can't say that I absolutely loved the movie. I don't know, it was just
Yeah.
too depressing, I guess. Which, I mean, I knew that going in. I knew it wasn't going to be one of my favorites, so I'm not like horribly disappointed by it. But
Mhm.
I liked Rebels a lot more than I liked
Yeah,
Rogue One.
yeah. So, well, let's talk about some of these characters because I think that's what's special about this movie. I keep saying movie. I think that's what's special about this series. So let's talk about Ezra as our lead character. Now, I think right around season 2, you were feeling like he's gonna go to the dark side. Like the pull was very strong. He had that sort of relationship with Darth Maul that started to develop at a certain point, and he has such, like Anakin, he has such a desire to help his family and family. And I think what they were able to do so successfully in this show is they were able to make the rebels, and this is what they weren't able to do in Rogue One, they were able to make the rebels his family. And that's what he ended up fighting for in the end. And
Yeah.
I loved in this finale when he's basically faced with the temptation of family. And that's what he realizes, that like he realizes what his family really is, and then he makes his decision. I thought that was so moving.
Mm-hmm. Once when we got to that part with him being faced with that choice, I was like, this was the point of the lesson they had to learn in the world between the worlds, that
Yeah.
Ahsoka basically had to tell him, you need to learn to let go. And I was like, this is what this was all leading to. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, agreed. It was really good. I was crying. It was emotional because you just seen this character grow up and become this man, and I could just feel like Kanan, like so proud of Ezra at that moment. It was really great, and it felt
Mhm.
earned. It really was just lovely, and I bought his character arc through the whole series. I think has been very well done. Dave Filoni is the writer and creator of this series, and he's just, I feel like he has such a handle on his characters.
He's brilliant. I think he's a better George Lucas than George Lucas was.
Yeah, agreed. I
I,
mean,
I love the what he does with the characters. He really makes you feel for the characters. I think that the characters in both of his shows are more successful than most of the characters in the movies.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, even though I haven't watched Clone Wars, even just from this, I have them on Blu-ray. I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I will. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I really do. And for me, let's go back a little bit to what happened with Kanan. So they are there. There's this point where there's this base that has this like basically kind of like a nuclear capability, sort of. And he ends up sacrificing himself in order for the rebels to leave, but also for the base to be destroyed. And so it can't be used for bad things anymore. And that was devastating, I thought, and so moving, so powerful, especially because they had just barely had the Hera and him had just barely confessed their love, and that was very moving, I thought.
Yeah, I really liked that scene. I kind of knew that it was coming. I mean, they've said before that you shouldn't take everything that is in the movies at face value, which you can tell that from a lot of things that have happened in the movie series. But I was really expecting both Kanan and Ezra to somehow either die or give up being Jedi by the end. So I kind of knew that he was going to die somehow.
Yeah.
I really
You
felt
could
it.
feel it coming.
I didn't know about Ezra because I mean it's a Disney XD show. I didn't know if they were going to kill off the main character of
Right.
what is ostensibly a show for kids, but I kind of knew that Kanan was going to be gone by the end of the series. But I really liked the way they did it. I thought they did it perfectly.
Yeah. It was like, and I know you disagree on this, but for me, this was the kind of ending I would have liked to have seen for Luke Skywalker. Him, sacrificing himself and dying this a little bit more of sort of a heroic death. I think they gave what for me I would have liked to have seen for Luke. They gave to Kanan, and it was really, really moving. Whereas I felt like in Last Jedi, it was kind of anticlimactic, him being the hologram. I wasn't a big fan of that, but that's neither here nor there. And so anyway, let's talk about Hera and Sabine. Let's talk about Hera. So she has had this relationship with Kanan, and why don't you tell us a little bit about her character? Did you like the way that things ended for her character?
Yeah, I liked that she survived, for one, because she was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
It's probably cliche to say this, but I really like Twi'leks. I love their design, and I love that we got one that was a fully realized character, because we've had other Twi'lek characters in other media. In the movies, there was Ayla Secura in the prequels.
Right.
We didn't really see much of her. One of her biggest scenes was her dying at the hands of clones. So I really liked that we got a character from that planet that was a fully realized character that we could really connect with. And she's just been one of my favorite characters since the beginning. And I really liked how everything played out for her. I'm sad that she didn't get a happy ending with Kanan, but I really liked that she kept moving forward and didn't let it set her back.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit confusing how she could possibly end up with a child with Kanan, because there was no... They literally like declared their love, and then he was gone.
I don't really... I mean, I guess we can speculate on that. And I don't know how that genetically works either, because they're two completely different species.
All right.
And the child looked very human.
Yeah.
I thought. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe if we get the Hera Ahsoka spinoff, which I would totally love.
Oh
And
yeah,
maybe
me
they'll
too.
explain it. Like maybe he's more like an adopted child that she's just, or something. Maybe they'll have some explanation because it doesn't really make sense. She's just great, really good character, interesting character, has to make choices. She's not like a, none of the women, none of the female characters in the show are Mary Sue's or whatever, and none of them are just sort of cliched warrior women. Like they all have to make choices. They all have it. They all have backstories, and we get that a lot with Sabine. She's Mandalorian, and we've gotten to know her a lot more this season. I feel like.
Yeah, I've really liked the development of Sabine, especially like last season when we found out so much about her backstory and her
Uh-huh.
life before her joining up with the rebels.
Right.
I've I've just really liked learning more about her.
Mhm.
And before her, I don't think I really cared at all about Mandalorians. I know everybody for some reason has latched on to Boba Fett as like this amazing character in the Star Wars universe, but he's on screen for like five
Yeah.
minutes in the original movies, and he's a little kid in the prequels. So he never was one that I like really latched onto. So I really didn't care about Mandalorians. But with her, now I'm feeling a lot more invested in the history of the Mandalorians. Like I would be a lot more open to watching a movie about Mandalorians and finding out more about what happened in their past because with Sabine, I guess she just made it all the more interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, she was really, really good, and was an interesting sort of contrast. I feel like to Hera, who, and she's just more of sort of like a military type character, more like more of a masculine energy to her than Hera. So I like the both of them together. I think they're really good, and and I like the way that they kept this like pretty small, which is what you had to do because obviously none of these characters appear in the original trilogy. So like you have to keep it to this small. They basically kept all of the action to Lothal, and that's what Ezra is trying to save Lothal. And I don't know, what did you think about that?
Well, at the beginning of the show, I did not like that. Like the show really had to grow on me.
Mm-hmm.
It took a couple of seasons before I was really invested in the show because at least to me when I first started watching it I was like this is not as good as Clone Wars because I had been so invested in the Clone Wars for so many years and then this seemed like a more childish version of the Clone Wars, especially because Ezra was so young and he just kind of annoyed me, and I was kind of annoyed that we had to focus on his home planet so much. So I guess at the beginning, I was not invested in Lothal. I really wanted them to go off world and do a lot more roaming around the galaxy, looking at other planets. I like learning about other planets and other creatures on other planets. So I just wanted more of that because we got a lot of that in Clone Wars, and we weren't getting that in Rebels. But as Ezra grew up, he really started growing on me. And as I found myself more invested in Ezra, I found myself more invested in Lothal. And then by season 4, I was like all in. If at season 1 they had said they were going to stay on Lothal and that's the only place they were going to be, I would have been really disappointed. But by season 4, I was really excited. I really wanted them to free Lothal, and I had no problem with that being the focus.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, he's confronted and he's given this choice basically of is he going to go to the dark side and he's tempted by the emperor uh, that with his family, and it kind of reminded me of in Harry Potter when that Harry is kind of sort of tempted by the love of his family and his parents, and that try to use that kind of to manipulate him and to be against him. And and what he has to kind of decide to do. Kind of, I felt like they're somewhat similar. What did you think of that?
I thought it was a good continuation of what happened, like toward was the end of season 2, beginning of season 3, where he was really being tempted by the dark side. Maybe it was season, I don't know. What you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The Malachor, basically. And when that happened, that was like my turning point for where I really started liking his character more, because
Okay.
it added so much more depth rather than him just being this little kid character that was tagging along with these more interesting characters. And I really liked that they showed him facing that temptation and getting past it. And then with this scene in the finale, it was similar, but it was more tied into other things that had happened in recent episodes. But it really showed how much the character has grown. And
Yeah.
I think if he had been presented with that choice in season 1, there's like no doubt in my mind that he would have taken that choice. He would have gone to try and free his parents or whatever was going on there. I'm still
Yeah.
not convinced that that was really his parents, but
No, I don't think so. I think it was an illusion. I think it was to tempt him, but I don't think it was real. But he's given that choice, and you also have in this same you have various goings on between all the different characters, and you end up with these space whales. The governor is there, and she's a pretty cool character. I liked pretty much all of the villains in this, and you also get a nice moment with Callus where he learns that he wasn't responsible for a lot of the bad things that he thought he had been responsible for. I thought that was a nice moment for him. Did you like that?
yeah, that was another of my big surprise moments. I've ever since Callus turned good, I've been saying he's going to be dead by the end of the series. There's no way he's going to live. And I was pleasantly surprised to be proven completely wrong. I was really surprised he made it through, because at the beginning of the episode, I was like, well, this is it for him. He's going to make some sort of heroic sacrifice and be dead by the end of the episode. But no, they gave him a complete story, and a little bit of even more of a redemption with
Yeah.
the realization that he did not wipe out the Lasat race.
Right.
Yeah, I really liked. I've liked him ever since we were introduced to him. I liked him as a bad guy, and then I really liked him once he became good. Because I think I've said before in other conversations, I'm a sucker for a good redemption story.
Yeah.
And I really liked his.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And yeah, so you have these space whales that came back. You must have. A lot of people made fun of the space whales, but now
I love the Purgle.
I knew you loved them. I knew you would.
I loved them in the first episode they were in.
I knew it.
There's just something about whales in space that is so cool to me. And the fact that they have like tentacles and they're like part octopus, and I really like octopuses too. I thought they were such a cool creature. And I don't know why this happened, but there was something about the conversation between the three characters that were on the Ghost. They were talking about sending this signal into hyperspace, and they were like, nobody uses that frequency. What would we be sending this for? And I was like, the whales, the space whales. They're going to be calling the space whale. And I was right, and I was shocked that I was right.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad, because they are so cool.
He's going to destroy Lothal, and so Ezra has a chance to leave with Hera and all of them, and he refuses to do so. And the tentacles of the space whales are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and these space whales can go into hyperspace. And so we see this. There's this tension building. And so they end up going in hyperspace, and so the Ezra and Thrawn are both somewhere, and we don't know where they ended up.
Mhm.
And what did you think of Thrawn in this series? It was a big announcement at Star Wars Celebration when they announced that we're bringing Thrawn back.
I really liked him. I know he was a big character in the expanded universe before this.
Yeah,
I didn't really read much of the expanded universe. I have a vague memory of checking out one of those books from the library soon after I watched the movies for the first time when I was a teenager, but I don't remember anything about it, and I'm pretty sure it was a book with Thrawn. So beyond that, I don't have much of a connection to the character, except that I know that a lot of Star Wars fans loved him as a villain. So I was not like super excited that they were bringing him on, but I wasn't like against it. It was just another one like I'll just see where this goes.
right.
So I discovered that I really like him. I think he's a great villain.
Mm-hmm.
He's right up there with Darth Vader and the Emperor in terms of evilness, and
Yeah,
I would say in some ways he's almost worse at a more personal level than they are, because they have
yeah,
these grand overarching evil schemes, but he's like, I don't know, almost personally vindictive with people that he's going against, and
yeah. I agree. I think
boring.
that's. I agree. He is just so like there's no mercy. Like he doesn't even really try to sort of like the emperor could like would kind of try to sort of oil you up and win you over or whatever,
Mhm.
and he doesn't even try. He's just like he's just a complete uh, just dictator character. Like he's really bad. And but I thought in a compelling way. It wasn't groan inducing to me. I thought he was really good. I also thought the governor was really good as a villain. I thought I liked her a lot, and she sounds exactly like Kate Blanchett, that voice actress. Like I don't know how she does that, but I would have sworn it was Kate Blanchett doing the voice cast. The voice cast in this series has been just superb. Whether it's
Yeah.
Freddie Prinze Jr. or just everybody has been so great, and so yeah, and then we get our final kind of ending where we get to see kind of where all the characters are kind of ending, which I like that they do that because you don't really need the ending of shows to be like all obtuse and weird and stuff like that. Like some people might think that's creative, but it's actually just really frustrating. Like when you watch a show, you kind of want to know, okay, this is where our characters are. I mean, yeah, I guess we didn't know exactly where Ezra is, but we know kind of what he's doing, and we
Mhm.
know that we know who's coming after him. So actually, we should talk. I can't believe we haven't talked about Ahsoka. So Ahsoka, we finally get her back in these last
Mhm.
couple of episodes. And what did you think about her arc through this series and in this finale?
Well, I've Ahsoka is unequivocally my favorite Star Wars character in any media.
Yeah,
Ahsoka is the best.
she's
I've
amazing.
been so invested in her character since the Clone Wars, and it was I don't, you probably already know sort of what happens to her since we have this show, but it was very, I don't know, gut wrenching. Her last episodes in Clone Wars, with her basically giving up everything that she had in her life and leaving, and then we never saw her again. And I was so excited to have her back in Rebels to continue her story and see what became of her, where she went. And I love how they have her being a Jedi without being a Jedi, because
Uh-huh.
she says very, very flat out, I am not a Jedi, because of what happened to her with the Jedi. And I loved having her back, and it was that was like the worst part of the last couple of seasons, was not knowing where she was and what happened
Yeah.
to her.
That was
So
so surprising to me. Like I was shocked that we didn't see her at all in season 4. That
Mhm.
surprised me so much.
I was, I mean, it makes sense, I guess, because she really doesn't have a way off the planet. She's kind of stuck there because she doesn't have a ship. She Everybody else left, or the the temple was in ruins. So I guess it makes sense that she didn't come back, but at the same time, I I wanted them to write in a plot where she finds a way off the planet, because I don't know, I wanted her back, but I understand why they didn't do it, and I really liked how they brought her back. But
Yeah.
now I really want to know what was going on those, what is it, at least 5 years between the time she was trapped on the planet and then where she showed up at the finale after the Battle of Endor.
Right.
That's at least 5 years, probably more. So I want to know what was going on there. I know they've got one book already that sort of details her life in between Clone Wars and Rebels. I'm thinking that they may be planning another book that details
Yeah.
that 5 years. Um,
I
I
think
still,
so. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. Even though I didn't watch Clone Wars, I really loved her character here. I thought that she was really interesting. And the idea of seeing sort of a student of Anakin is really interesting.
mhm. Yeah, I know at the beginning of Clone Wars, people did not like her. They felt about Ahsoka at the beginning of Clone Wars like I felt about Ezra at the beginning of Rebels, because basically they just saw her as this annoying little kid who was tagging along with all the people they wanted the stories to be about. I guess it didn't bother me because I liked her well enough at the beginning, and then as the show went on, I she grew, and my appreciation for her character grew as well.
Yeah.
By
Well,
the end of the series, I loved her.
when we say goodbye to her in the end of season 3, and I mean it's a pretty emotional scene because she's confronting Darth Vader
Mhm.
and who's Anakin, of course. And so that is one of the best scenes in all of Star Wars. It was so good. And what she's having to deal with, these conflicted feelings, and he wants her to completely go with him and embrace the dark side, but she refuses, and they have this fight, and it was so good. And
Mhm.
then we kind of leave her there. We don't know what's happened with her and Vader, with her and the temple and everything. And so I was shocked that we didn't get her last season, but it was great this season, and I would totally watch an Ahsoka Hera looking for Ezra series if they wanted to do it. I totally would be there 100%.
I I kind of have a feeling that they may have been setting something like that up,
Yeah.
especially with her approaching Sabine at the end of the series in her, like, I don't know, wise old like a Jedi master in the cloak, and I think she had a staff.
Yeah.
It, I think they were setting something like that up. Um, I This is not anything that Disney has confirmed, but someone online found out that Disney has trademarked a title and logo for something called Star Wars Resistance, and they're speculating that this is going to be the next animated series, and it could be something in between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. And I'm kind of wondering if that the end of Rebels was setting up the beginning of the next series, because that's like the perfect segue into a series. Like, Ezra is missing,
Yeah.
they need to find him, and it would have them going on this journey looking for him.
Great finale. I'm sad that the show's over, but if you haven't watched it, it's really wonderful. It's really well done. Great animation too, we should say, throughout. I really enjoyed it, and not every episode lands, but enough do. There's definitely some really kiddie ones with like the space cats and stuff like that. But it's a show that the whole family can really enjoy, I think.
Totally agree.
after being kind of conflicted about Last Jedi, it's just kind of nice to have something from Star Wars that for me I just like unequivocally love. And again, so that makes me feel good. So
I think
anyway,
I think that the Star Wars franchise as a whole sort of shows why I tend to gravitate towards television more than movies,
uh,
because especially like with between Rebels and like most of the movies, you get so much more character development because you have so much more time with the characters, and you get to see so much more of their lives than you do in a 2-hour movie.
yeah,
You have like it was 16 half-hour episodes, so basically 8 hours. You get 8 hours for a season rather than 2 hours for a movie. You get to know the characters so much more. And this is not to knock movies at all. I still love movies. I
right.
still
No, I understand. Yeah, I can totally. I think that is very true. It's just such a more investment of time, but it
That's
definitely can
true.
flesh out those characters for sure. So, all right, well, great. Well, thanks for joining me to talk about this. This was really fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really liked the show and I really like talking about it.
Yeah, it was really good. And so, where can people reach you? Where can people find you?
You can find me all across social media at John J North. That's my Twitter handle. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel as well. No dedicated URL for that, but you'll have it linked below.
Yeah, we'll definitely check his channel out. Please subscribe to his channel. And you can find me at Smiley LDS Girl on social media and at Rachel's Reviews on YouTube and iTunes. And I will be looking at Wrinkle in Time sometime this week. I think I'm going to go on Thursday, so that should be fun. And there's going to be some more videos and fun stuff coming up. So I look forward to that. And thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.